Suspicious packages are mailed to the homes of several prominent Democratic politicians. We have more on the FBI's investigation on the potential bomb threat in our lead report.
And thousands of migrants are making their way north through Mexico to the U.S. southern border. We have the latest on the migrant caravan.
And Saudi Arabia has again changed its position on the disappearance of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Hear what the officials have to say.
Typhoon U2 hits the northern Marina Islands. We'll have the details on the hurricane and weather. Newscene starts now.
Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Newscene. I'm Colton Chavez.
And I'm Alexandra Rangel.
New developments tonight as the FBI arrests a man in Florida this morning suspected in sending at least a dozen parcel bombs to high-profile Democrats and outspoken critics of President Donald Trump. According to the online court records, 56-year-old Cesar Sayoc has been arrested numerous times over the years, including one case in 2002, in which he served 1 year of probation for making a bomb threat. Sayoc is also a registered Republican. And Yakira Delgado has been covering this story all week. She has more on what led to the arrest in this week's lead report. What do you have for us, Yakira?
Thank you, Colton. A federal investigation is underway after a week of horror for open politicians and critics of President Donald Trump, after explosive devices were mailed to those individuals. Let's take a look.
My brave staffers and I saw those weapons of hate up close.
A week full of terror for leaders and media outlets across the United States receiving packages containing explosives. Representative Wasserman Schultz, one of the targets, spoke out for the first time. The FBI is treating the events as domestic terrorism. At least 12 packages have been found in New York City, Washington, Maryland, Delaware, Florida, and California. Actor Robert De Niro, Joe Biden, former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, and Senator Cory Booker, the most recent targets.
We have over 600,000 postal employees out there right now, so we have their eyes and ears looking for these packages.
The homemade bombs inside the yellow packages appear to be related because of their similarities. The packages also appear to come from the similar source. All evidence recovered is being analyzed in Quantico, and investigators are limiting the amount of information on the devices to the media.
It is vitally important that we do not inadvertently disclose information that could adversely impact our investigation or a future prosecution.
While in a midterm rally in Wisconsin, President Trump immediately addressed the events.
We will find those responsible and we will bring them to justice. Any acts or threats of political violence are an attack on our democracy itself.
Those threats also reached you. This past Wednesday, similar devices were found in the field offices of Democrat Kamala Harris and the San Diego Union Tribune. They were both immediately evacuated and no one was injured. As we have said, Cesar Sayoc has been apprehended and will be charged. He's also a registered Republican and sent the packages to opposing party members. That's all I have for the lead report. Back to you at the desk.
And the migrant caravan that started in Honduras continues to travel north through Mexico. With over 1,000 miles left until they reach a U.S. border, the White House is making moves to stop the caravan.
The White House deals with migrants who are trying to make their way to the U.S. border. Defense Secretary James Mattis is expected to deploy at least 800 troops to the southern border. The plan? To provide fencing, wall materials, and other technical support to border authorities. Thousands of migrants continue to trek despite President Trump's efforts to discourage the caravan. Yesterday tweeting that the migrants should turn around. The president is now weighing on an executive order that would deny asylum seekers an opportunity to apply for asylum. To date, the caravan has traveled 20 to 30 miles per day. Men, women, and families with children fleeing violence, poverty, and searching for a better life. The journey has not been easy. Fatigue, heat exhaustion, and other injuries have forced some to slow down, and many have quit the journey. Along the way, Red Cross ambulances and organizations have helped the migrants with aid, water, and food. Yesterday, the migrants made it to Pajijipan, where they rested for the night. The caravan is following a route to Mexico City. Once there, many are expected to catch trains to the nearest border entries. Brownsville, Texas is the closest entryway, but is considered the dangerous route. And the safest route? Tijuana, a destination for many. But not all migrants are headed to the U.S. Mexican officials say more than 2,000 migrants have already filed for asylum in Mexico.
U.S. officials say troops should be at the border sometime next week. As of now, the caravan is about 600 miles away from the city of Mexico. It'll be at least another 3 to 4 weeks until they reach the city of Mexico. We will continue to keep you updated on the movement of this caravan.
Retired Supreme Court Judge Sandra Day O'Connor is retiring from public life. This comes after she was diagnosed with beginning stages of dementia and potential Alzheimer's disease. On Tuesday, Chief John Roberts praised O'Connor after her announcement, quote, role model not only for girls and women, but for all those committed to equal justice under law. Nominated to the Supreme Court by President Ronald Reagan in 1981, she will be remembered as a transparent and towering figure through her service.
Saudi Arabia is now calling the death of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi a murder. Khashoggi entered the Saudi Arabia consulate in Turkey on October 2nd and was allegedly murdered there the same day. Saudi Arabia's initial response was that Khashoggi left the consulate alive. Then 1 week later, they stated Khashoggi was missing after President Trump spoke on the phone with Saudi King Salman. He suggested there could have been rogue killers operating without the government's knowledge. Thursday was the first time Saudi Arabia called the incident a murder, when their energy minister made a public statement.
It's not a death, it's a murder. We admit it, we're dealing with it. As such, we will be transparent.
Saudi Crown Prince bin Salman called the murder unnecessary and says there is no doubt that those responsible will be brought to court.
A Japanese journalist is back home after being held prisoner for over 3 years. 44-year-old Junpei Yasuda was kidnapped by the Syrian rebels in the summer of 2015. While reporting in northern Syria, Yasuda says the torture was frequent and his imprisonment was hell. The Prime Minister of Japan thanked Turkey and Qatar for their help in ensuring Yasuda's release. The Japanese government says, quote, there is no evidence that ransom money was paid.
And another scandal hits the Catholic Church, this time in California. A new report is accusing more than 200 priests of sexual abuse around San Francisco. Anderson and Associates investigator Pat Wall accused Bay Area Diocese of providing incomplete information about accused clergy. A news conference on Tuesday released a report accusing 212 priests of sexual misconduct. Jeff Anderson has filed a lawsuit that charges each bishop with conspiracy and says their actions or inaction expose the public to unsafe conditions. Attorney generals from other states, including Maryland, D.C., and Virginia, are also investigating if their Catholic dioceses have covered up clergy abuse.
Europe is still in a fight against a deadly measles outbreak, even though the vaccine for measles was invented 50 years ago. Over the past 10 months, the World Health Organization has reported 41,000 cases of measles with 40 deaths so far. Last year, in a 12-month period, the number of measles cases were over 23,000. Ukraine has been the most affected with 32,000 cases from September through August. Measles is an airborne disease and is highly contagious, and there has been a vaccine for it since 1963.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration is investigating a European organization sending abortion pills by mail. And Access is providing a way to get doctor-prescribed pills by mail to medically induced abortions at home. If a woman completes the consultation and is deemed eligible for a medical abortion, the organization's founder writes a prescription for 2 pills used to terminate the pregnancy. The FDA warns against buying such pills from Europe over the internet and say that consumers who do so bypass distribution safeguards in place to protect them.
An ancient document is safe after its theft was thwarted. Details on more after the break.
And 2 of baseball's most iconic teams do get out for the World Championship. The latest in the sports when we come back.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.
UC San Diego workers and their colleagues at UC facilities are on strike after a labor dispute. Some 15,000 patient care technical workers at the University of California are striking to protest the university's practice of outsourcing jobs to contract companies. The action comes just months after UC's 10,000 service workers staged a 3-day walkout in May over the described as growing income, racial, and gender disparities within the university's workforce. According to a union spokesperson, the university decided to impose employment terms on the workers that would risk more outsourcing while flattening wages, raising health care premiums, and lifting the retirement age.
Electric scooter riders are asked to wear helmets, but that doesn't mean it's protecting pedestrians. A Los Angeles class action lawsuit alleges that Bird and Lime scooter rental companies have aided and abetted assault, resulting in numerous pedestrian injuries. One of the attorneys presenting the lawsuit, Catherine Lear of Santa Monica, says she has received over 100 calls from people with injuries ranging from broken arms to ligaments that tears that require surgery. Bird states, quote, "There is no evidence that riding an e-scooter presents a greater level of danger to riders than riding a bicycle."
A 45-year-old man was arrested in Salisbury, England for trying to steal and destroy the Magna Carta. The glass casing, which normally holds the 800-year-old document, was shattered with a hammer. But luckily, the famous legal document was not damaged. The Salisbury Cathedral, which houses the document, was evacuated. The Magna Carta is a medieval document which establishes that even the king is subject to the law. It is the basis for much of British and even American law.
Sweetwater School District cut summer school, extracurricular programs, and tutors to fix a $30 million budget mistake. In an email to Rancho Del Rey Middle School families, the Sweetwater School District announced that they will be cutting after-school programs and its 2019 summer school session while it scrambles to fix the $30 million mistake. The district has faced scrutiny in the past, battling lawsuits for bribery and sexual harassment scandals. San Diego's second-largest district says they found a shortage in their budget from last year, mainly from staff raises unaccounted for.
San Diego will celebrate the men and women of the military through events coming up this week. Fleet Week aims to honor both the Navy and all branches of the military. Back in June of 1935, San Diego hosted the Fleet Week celebration as part of the California Pacific International Exposition. Over time, community and business leaders decided to show their appreciation for the military by cultivating a week that recognizes all the contributions made by the armed forces.
And on Tuesday, November 6th, the San Diego City College will host a free Taco Tuesday for all registered veterans. From 3 to 5 p.m., veterans are invited to journey down to the quad to enjoy a free taco. Alongside City College, both Mesa and Miramar College veterans will be welcomed at the quad. Enjoy your tacos, guys.
And some tacos that we should not be eating. Nearly 2.5 million pounds of taquitos are being recalled for salmonella and listeria contamination. Ready-to-eat packaged meat and poultry taquitos have been recalled over concerns that the products may be contaminated with listeria and salmonella. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the issue concerns the onions used by Reese Food Products, Inc. in their beef and cheese taquitos. Impacted products were produced between July 1st through October 10th and were shipped to stores like 7-Eleven, Trader Joe's, Walmart, and Whole Foods. You are eligible for a full refund, and we encourage you to throw out these affected packages.
I knew those taquitos didn't taste very good this weekend. But this hasn't been a very good week for the Los Angeles Dodgers or the Miami Dolphins. We now turn to our very own Juan Gomez for the latest coverage. How about those games, Juan?
Thank you, guys. Now let's kick off with Thursday Night Football as the Houston Texans received the Miami Dolphins. Deshaun Watson was absolutely red hot yesterday. He was sliding TDs all over the place. He first started with a 30-yard pass to Jordan Thomas to the end zone. The Texans would go to halftime with a 14-10 lead over the Dolphins. Then at the third quarter, there was the play of the game, a screen pass from Osweiler to Danny Amendola, and he throws it again to find Kenyon Drake for a 28-yard touchdown. What a play. Yet it wasn't enough. The Houston Texans would move on to win 42-23. Deshaun Watson had a day with 5 touchdown passes. Now let's move on to Europe. It was Champions League week, and there was many great matchups. Barcelona received Inter de Milan in a clash for the first place of the group. At the first half, Luis Suarez would pass this beauty to secure Rafinha's goal. Then at the second quarter, the speedy Jordi Alba would cross the ball for the 2-0 win over the Italian club. Paris faced off Napoli in what seemed to be the game of the game of the week. The little Italian insigne would score for the Napoli side. Then the Argentinian Angel Di Maria would score for PSG at the end of the game. it will finish 2-2. Both teams are still battling for the second place of Group C. And now moving on in London, it was the homecoming game for Cristiano Ronaldo. The ex-United finally came back, but with the Juventus t-shirt, the game finished 1-0 in favor of Ronaldo's team. Paulo Dybala would score the only goal. Cristiano was close to scoring, but couldn't touch the net this time. Now moving on, and Game 2 of the World Series was held this Wednesday as the Boston Red Sox received the Dodgers. Boston fans were going crazy. It was a great atmosphere at Fenway Park. The Dodgers, with an urgency to win, got their first lead at the fourth inning. Yasiel Puig hits the single, helping Manny Machado score 2-1 in favor of LA. But then, just like the first game, it was all Boston, courtesy of Dodgers' poor pitching game. With full bases, Mason would pitch a fair ball to give Boston the tie. Then at the bottom fifth, J.D. Martinez would hit a single to help Betts and Benintendi score. That would wrap up the game 4-2 in favor of Boston and a 2-0 lead in the series. After the game, Boston pitcher David Price had this to say.
This is the biggest stage, in baseball. There's no other stage that's going to be bigger than, pitching in a World Series game, unless it's Game 7 of the World Series. So, to be able to do that, that feels good for sure.
And to wrap up sports, LeBron James and company looking for its first victory at Staples Center. The Lakers received the Denver Nuggets yesterday with special guest Kobe Bryant, the Black Mamba, as special guest. Late in the game, Lonzo Ball, LeBron James' connection was heating up with the assist to LeBron for the layup. Then Ball takes it from the half court to the rim for the layup. Then late in the third quarter, LeBron James, the king, with the monster dunk to take the lead with 3 minutes left. And with 1 minute left, the Lakers winning by 3 points. Shot clock ticking. LeBron James with the ball, and he passes it to Kyle Kuzma, the Kuz, for the dunk. What a play. The Lakers will move on to win 121-114. And guys, with that, we will wrap up sports. Back to you guys at the desk.
All right, thank you for that, Juan. Halloween actress Jamie Lee Curtis sheds a light on a dark period in her life for the very first time. More on her shocking confession coming up in entertainment.
Many are preparing to celebrate a loved one's life instead of mourning their death. Stay tuned to find out about a tradition that continues to grow in America when we come back.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
When I get all steamed up, then I shout.
Tip me over and pour me out. Oh.
It only takes a moment to make a moment.
Cheers.
Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back. This past Tuesday was an exciting day for someone in South Carolina. It wasn't me. They did something that less than 1% of the people in the world can do, and that's win the Mega Millions. Officials say they will get $80 million in taxes. Yikes. The person that won will stay anonymous as of now. The numbers that won were 5, 28, 62, 65, and 70. The winning ticket was sold at a KC Mart in Simpsonville, South Carolina. The shop's owner will receive $50,000, while the ticket holder won $137 billion. Not bad for a day's work.
Welcome to the day when the living and the dead hang out with each other in a different and an unreal celebration. Reporter Michelle Million has more details about the Day of the Dead.
Muertos, also known as Day of the Dead, is a holiday with Mexican origins that is celebrated on November 1st and 2nd. While some imagine it might be close to the Halloween festivity, there are significant differences between the two. Day of the Dead is a celebration to remember loved ones we have lost. Those who celebrate Dia de los Muertos will usually put an altar honoring those members of the family who have passed away. Some of the popular things you can find on this day are sugar skulls, Catrinas, food, dance, costumes, and many more. On Wednesday, crew members and myself went to one of the most famous cultural places in Tijuana, where we interviewed a local student who got to tell us more about the celebration.
Their favorite foods or drinks. Like, for example, for my grandpa, we always put like mole or mezcal, because that's his favorite drink. Then, after all the celebration and everything finishes, we all get together and have a family dinner.
Now, here in San Diego, there are many places where you can gather your family and friends and enjoy El Día de los Muertos. Some of the options are Logan Heights, Sherman Heights, and Old Town, among many others. Although Dia de los Muertos is a Mexican holiday, it is actually celebrated in other countries such as Guatemala, Brazil, and Spain. It is also becoming more popular in the U.S. due to the large number of Mexican immigrants and Mexican Americans. Reporting from Newscene, Michelle Mayon.
A star actress digs deep on her battles with opioids for the first time ever. Here's David in entertainment.
Thanks, guys. And that's right. Jamie Lee Curtis is speaking out on her struggles with opioid addiction, quote, no one knew about. The Halloween star opened up to People magazine this week about her decade-long battle with painkillers nearly 20 years ago. Curtis told People for years she hid her opioid use from everyone that she loved, until one day she was forced to come clean about it after stealing some from her older sister. Curtis said it was her sister's loving reaction to her confession that allowed her to overcome her drug use and turn her life around. Curtis says beating her addiction remains her greatest accomplishment, and now she's enjoying 20 years of sobriety. Congratulations, Jamie. Excuse me. David Schwimmer trolls internet fans who are convinced that he looks a lot like the thief who resembles Ross from Friends. Schwimmer posted this video on his Instagram this week to clear his name of robbery after Blackpool police put out a photo of a suspected beer thief he shares a resemblance with. The Friends actor put any and all confusion to rest after staging a robbery and mimicking his look-alike. Blackpool police got in on the joke too to assure fans that they thoroughly investigated the situation and could confirm that Schwimmer was in New York on the date the beers were stolen. It checks out this time, but I'm watching you, Ross. I know your Twitter handle. And in other breaking news, Megyn Kelly's rocky tenure with NBC comes to a close today as the daytime host's future is left uncertain. The NBC network canceled her daytime talk show, Megyn Kelly Today, after the host came under fire for her awkward defense of using blackface for Halloween costumes. The show's cancellation comes just over a year after its debut, with many criticizing Kelly for a series of controversial and racially insensitive remarks. Kelly formerly served as a Fox News anchor and wanted to expand her horizons outside the conservative news bubble. Entertainment Tonight reports Kelly is asking for $50 million and a settlement to leave the network. This would cover the money that she would have made over the remainder of her contract. The Washington Post reports other Today Show hosts will replace Kelly in a 9 a.m. time slot. That's all the time that I have here at Entertainment. Back to you two at the desk.
Thank you for that report. Typhoon Yutu hits the northern Marina Islands. We'll have the details on that in our weather segment after the break.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Well, San Diego always has such great weather, but you know, we may get some changes. Shonda, what can we expect?
Welcome to the weather this week. The past week has been very sunny and chilly enough to have to wear a sweater in the evening. But before we get started on the local news, let me take you to the U.S. territory of the Northern Marina Islands, where they were hit by Typhoon Yutu, on Wednesday night, causing a Category 5 hurricane with wind speeds of 174 miles per hour. It has affected about 55,000 people. Power lines are down, and the water supplies have been cut, which could take months to restore, not to mention how many homes have been destroyed. The super typhoon has been the strongest tropical cyclone in the U.S. territory this year. Now, it's moved into the Pacific Ocean and could be a possible threat to the Philippines, Taiwan, or southern Japan. Moving on to other hurricane news, the western coast of Mexico is extremely flooded. Here's an aerial view of the aftermath of Hurricane Willa. Homes are underwater, and they are at risk of being in mudslides. Willa has turned into a tropical rainstorm, and it's pushing its way into Texas, which brings me to our national weather. In New York, temperatures are at the low 40s, actually the mid 40s to the high 50s. And moving on over to the West Coast, the Midwest, Minneapolis, Oklahoma City, and Texas are all experiencing weather between the 50s and 60s, and they will be having heavy rains with lots of wind. As we go into Seattle, the degrees is pretty good. It's about 60 degrees. And as we come along our coast down here to San Diego, temperatures get warmer and they're in the high 70s. Now let's talk about our local weather. Here in San Diego, the mountains are at a high of 86 degrees. Borrego Springs and Ramona. As we get into Escondido, it cools down a little bit to about 76. Along the coastline, we've been at about 68 toward the evening, but in the mid-afternoons it's been about 70 degrees. Now let's take a look at our weekly forecast weather. For our weekend, the high for Friday is 78 at the coast and 89 inland. On Saturday, for those of you who are going to be out there going to any fall activities, it'll be beautiful. It'll be 78 degrees during the day and 88 coast, 78 on the coast and 88 on inland. For the rest of the week, weather temperatures will be in the mid-70s. Thank you very much for joining me for the weather segment. Back to Colton and Alexandria.
Thank you for that report. I really hate that Halloween is on a Wednesday. It's going to be beautiful out there, and I'm probably not going to do anything but stay inside and watch movies. You know, you grow up as a kid, and you will go out and trick-or-treating. But me, what do I do on a Wednesday? I work.
I mean, you can still go out. I'll be going out.
All right, well, I have a joke for you, Alexandra. Why did the sea lion cross the road?
I don't know, Colton, why?
Well, this adorable animal brought traffic to a standstill in Point Loma as she rolled around the street.
Just blocks away from the water, residents and police were puzzled as to why the sea lion was out on the road alone. Witnesses say that once she got to Rosecrans, a lot of people were concerned and tried to stop traffic. SeaWorld specialists saved the sea lion and brought her in for examination.
And it's still unclear why the 160-pound bundle of joy left her home in the ocean in the first place. Well, that is going to be all the time that we have for Newscene. Please stay tuned next week for all your local, national, and international news, but actually we do have a few more minutes to work with. So it's crazy to see that this sea lion wants to put herself in danger like that.
I know, it wanted to get to something across the road.
Tell you, I think it might have met the chicken that crossed the road, and he told her,
Maybe.
you know what? I did okay doing it. Maybe you'll be okay doing it as well. But honestly, I don't know. It's a crazy story.
Yeah, so are you celebrating Halloween this weekend?
I'm going to celebrate tonight, and that's probably going to be the only night that I go out and actually do something.
Me too, me too.
Well, stay tuned next time, guys. That's all the time we have. Good night.